When it comes to trading a particular session, you have to know what that session is doing from a trading standpoint. You have to look at what the market is actually doing. So what I mean by that is that when it comes to the actual Forex sessions, every session has like a schedule. So, you have your major sessions, which is, you know, Asian session, and then London session, then New York. What you're looking at is each thing lines up with the session. So, for example, Asian session, you can usually tell it's like a consolidation that happens. So between Asian sessions between like 4 p.m. and 4 p.m. and what was it 12 a.m. Usually some consolidation. Then what happens is during London session, there's usually a breakout out of that consolidation and a continuation. You may have like a little bit of a stop hunt to where it kind of goes up a little bit, but for the most part, it's breaking out of that consolidation and going in the direction that it's going to go for that session. The other thing is that, in New York session, either one or two things are going to happen. In New York session, you're going to get either a continuation of what London session is doing, or you're going to get a reversal from what London session is doing. Get a reversal. So it's kind of like a 1-2 punch when it comes to trading in the markets. So that's basically the agenda. So what I like to do leading into London session is I like to find these consolidation areas right here and mark them up. Find it, the price zones, and just see what's going to happen when London session kicks off. That's my one mentality. The second thing is that, I'm always looking for the trend that is saying, it can be overplayed, but it's the truth. You want to trade with the trend and know what the structure of the markets is. So when you're looking at, the different charts, you have to have that idea in mind. So that's basically the look. Now there's a couple things that you can kind of use to determine, which way it may go. Like maybe it's trend, maybe it's like momentum indicators. It's a couple different things, but just to keep it simple, I'm going to do price action. So if we go back here, this is euro pound. Make sure everybody can hear me or see me. Okay, perfect. So this is euro pound. What I like to do is I like to go on the 4-hour chart. And from the 4-hour chart is I like to see what my strong zones are. So right away, I see these zones. And the way I determine zones is I use a set of criteria. So the first thing is like wicks in the area. So if we look here, you see price is respecting and creating wicks in the area. The second thing that I like to see is that price has made a strong move towards that area and then rejected off of that area. So that's the second thing that I like to see, when it comes to trends. The other thing is when the trend is actually, or not a trend, a zone is actually broken. I like to see, a strong candle break it. So you see here, that was a strong candle. These weak candles, you don't want it to break. You see, over here, a strong candle broke the zone. A strong candle broke the zone. And that's what you like to see when you're looking at zones. You don't want to see where like weak candles are breaking that zone. And that, the other thing, maybe it's like doji, something like this right here. This is a doji. See how the candle is not a really big body. I zoom in so you can see it. Ooh, that didn't do right at all. Let's go back. So you see how the body of the candle, really wasn't much compared to the tail or the wick of that candle. So, those are some of the things that I look at. Let's see, make sure that I can be heard. Okay, perfect. So when I'm doing this, I'm looking for things that match up to that criteria. You see here, same thing, wicks, strong candle breaking zone, strong candle, strong candle, strong candle, strong candle, wicks, momentum going into that level, rejecting off of it, momentum going into that level, rejecting off of it. That's a strong zone. Same thing down here. And usually, after you do this a few times, you kind of have an idea what it's doing on the bigger charts. So, you don't have to do this every time. But when it comes to trading, you want to have that consistency. So now that I got the 4 hour taken care of, those are the main zones in the 4 hour. And of course, I can use that or that, but that's not really relevant. So I go down to the 1 hour. Now the 1 hour is going to show me smaller movements. And let me kind of zoom out a little bit. There we go. It's going to show you smaller movements and zones that were in the middle of the zones that you were looking at the 4 hours. It's going to give you a more detailed look. So if I'm looking for another zone here, this area here lines up. So you got, the same thing, wicks and dojis and momentum, strong candles breaking the zone, strong candles, momentum coming back to it. And you see that price is now effectively boxed up in that zone. So now you want to see, where price is going to go. Now, if you look for the actual trend of the market, you can argue that the trend is down because you have a series of lower lows and lower highs. So you got a high here, it creates a low, then it creates a lower low, lower high, lower low. So at the moment right now, it is in a downtrend. So I'm going to be more partial to sales at the moment. But if you notice, this was the last high. So if this high was to get broken, and then it was to retest that area, then if it starts to go up, I'll probably take the buy, but I'll be more comfortable taking this sell here because I want it to break and retest and have like a floor and a ceiling. Because if you look at these zones, think of it like levels, like floors and ceilings. So if you jump above the ceiling and break through the ceiling and get jump into the next floor, so you have the type of strength, what was the ceiling to you now becomes the floor. And if you fall beneath the floor, what becomes, what was the floor now becomes the ceiling. So now, I have, my mindset with it, but I'm more partial to sales because the trend is gravity. So when the trend is going in a certain direction, I'm going to be more partial to that direction because that's going to give you a higher probability. So right there would be, my outlook for Euro GBP. Another pair that we could look at, I like looking at like the European pairs or the Great British pairs when it comes to this. Another pair that you could look at is, let's see, let's find one that's easier to identify. Okay. So the British pound, Swiss franc. So same thing. I'm going to go out and do, my analysis on the 4 hour. So I see that's my zone there. Another one of my zones here. So basically, when it comes to those zones, you want to make sure that you're taking your time and really identifying why you're using that as a zone. And if you know why you're using that as a zone, your evidence towards that being considered a strong zone, you're going to have more confidence when you're trading the market. So, those are my zones for now in the 4 hour. And I'm going to go down to the 1 hour. And I see that these are the zones for the 1 hour. So, just following that same criteria: strong zones, wicks, momentum, breaks, and retests. Things that line up with each other. So now, when it comes to trading it, this is on an uptrend. If I did the same thing, just created a higher high, higher low, higher high. Well, so now that I see that, what trend it could possibly go, I'm fine either way. Like, I'm not trying to predict the markets. I'm just simply responding to what's happening. So with pound franc, if it goes up and does that, I'm fine. If it goes down and retest here, I'm fine because I have my outline lined up. Now, of course, there's a little bit more space with the sell, so I would maybe hold it for a little bit longer when it comes to a sell. But during London session, after London session starts, usually there's like an outbreak to one direction about 1-2 o'clock in the morning. Then between 2 and 5 o'clock, that correction happens, and that's where you would get into your trade. But all in all, that's the way I look at the markets. I look for the zones. I look for where I can, place my buys, place my sells, and I keep going. You're not predicting the markets. You're just preparing for it and reacting to it and having a plan for what happens.